Hey guys, Rock and Roll back with some more Hero Colosseum. Now, if you remember a long time ago, I actually did an analysis on a list of figures written up by a friend of mine, Free Tempest, and he's basically sent me another list of figures. He's worked this together with a friend of his, and they asked me to sort of review it and see what I think. Now, the last video was something like 40 minutes long. I won't do it that this time. I'll break it into two, because if you look at the sidebar here, there's a lot to go through. So it'll be two, possibly even three, just because it was a lot to go through. I'll keep an eye on the time and just see how we're going. So anyway, let's get into it. Shout out again to Free Tempests. He does support me on Patreon, which I'm massively grateful for. So double shout out to him. Thank you so much, mate. I really do appreciate it. But anyway, let's start off. So additional URs. Now, this is about EX limit breaks. I have said in several videos how I would be a massive fan of us having more limit breaks for a lot of the figures in the game. There's a lot we could do with EX. Like, they could do a whole update with just EX limit breaks, and I'd be happy, because it would bring in a lot of old figures. Like, what would be a good example? Ultimate Gohan. An Ultimate Gohan limit break. I think he would be amazing. Just make his SR limit break. He could be so good, because he's a very good figure at the minute, and he's just a regular SR at the minute. So yeah, I definitely would agree with anything around EX limit breaks. We need more of them. They're kind of like easy A's in Dokkan, I guess. That's, I suppose, the best comparison for them. Bringing old figures into the meta is what they could do with it. Right, so let's look at the first figure here. So it's Kaioken Goku with Kaioken Assault and Super Kamehameha. I'm guessing that is from the fight with Vegeta, I would guess, on Earth? Or would it be with his first fight with Frieza? It's just I would expect his ultimate attack to be a 20 times Kamehameha. 20 times Kaioken Kamehameha. Let's see his stats. There's some pretty nice stats, actually. Reasonable HP, good attack, decent speed. That's a great HP stat. Solid attack, and as always, you guys know when they've got numbers like that, they need to have a lowish number there. 1200 is good. My limit for figures like that is usually around 1800, because that's what you're looking at for Super Saiyan 4 Goku. He is something like 1780 on his speed. So that's the sort of limit usually. I don't count Vados in there, just because you usually have other slow figures to compensate. So opposing skills, Saiyan from Earth. Place on a trigger square for 500 to own attack and 350 to own defense. Repeatable. Okay, that's nice. That's a good boost every turn. Especially when you look at his other stats. He could be quite bulky quite quickly on either. Place on or after turn 3 for 1000 to own attack, 500 to own defense and speed, and 20% ultimate attack damage. Stacks during that turn only. So he kind of reminds me a lot of SR Cooler in that instance. He has a very similar set of stats, just I think the only thing he's lacking is sort of this on the end here. But the rest of it is a lot like SR Cooler, and I'm actually a fan of SR Cooler. He can pump out a lot of damage after turn 3. So it's solid. Trigger square, center mid. I don't know, guys. I'm not a fan of figures that only have one trigger square, especially when it is center mid nowadays. It is a very common trigger square. And like I say, I don't like ones where they're just one trigger squares. Like if it was there and say back left, or even back middle, if you have it in a line like that, that could be quite interesting. But I don't like figures that have one trigger square. It just makes them very predictable. So you know when the time comes that Goku is going there. So you can sort of plan for it. But I like his abilities. I think he'd be a solid addition. Alright, next one we've got Goku Super Saiyan. Break It Energy Wave, Kamehameha, Break It Energy Wave. Okay, those are some nice stats. Those are, what figure would they be comparable to? Kind of the Super Saiyan 3 Bardock, actually, when you look at the attack. and speed. I think the alternate figure of that has a decent attack stat. Actually, no, the Super Saiyan, the new Super Saiyan Bardock, actually would be a closer comparison. That's a monstrous HP stat. Because oh god, I don't know whether these are level 1 or level 99, that's the problem. I'm assuming 99. It's a very good HP stat. So, uncontrollable rage. So, this is obviously from the fight with Frieza. Place on trigger 500 to own attack, 350 to own defense, and 10% to own damage dealt repeatable. Okay, that's solid. It's just a little bit better version of this one. I'm seeing the trend here. Okay. I didn't get that you were linking all these figures to the EX limit breaks. Okay. I get it now. So as these go through, so basically you've just turned them. So would this be the rare? Would this be the SR, the UR? And then you got Super Saiyan 3, that as the LR. Okay. I get it now. That's my bad. I didn't fully realize you were using the EX break, so that's on me. When an ally is defeated, 1000 to own attack, 500 to own defense and speed, 20% ultimate damage. And place after turn 3 to have all of the abilities from that. Okay. And those two, you see, that's better. Those are nice trigger squares to have. Because front left and front right isn't the most common to have for figures. So, the best one I can think of is Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. He has front, right, and left. But I do like it. It's 2 trigger squares. And I like his stats. And I like his ability. So, yeah, I like that. Super Saiyan 2 Warp Kamehameha is his pose. Super Dragon Fist is the super attack. And the ultimate attack, Super Kamehameha. I don't think... Does Goku ever use the Dragon Fist in Super Saiyan 2? I don't think he does. He uses it in 3. Again, I don't know if he uses Warp Kamehameha in Super Saiyan 2, does he? We don't honestly see a lot of Super Saiyan 2 Goku doing sort of moves outside of the fight versus Vegeta, in which they were basically beating the crap out of each other for most of it, with throwing a few energy blasts in there. So it's kind of like up for debate what moves he would use. The stats are just a boost on that. So what do you do differently this time? You do... Oh, you have minus 10% own damage taken added on as well. That's the same. And those are the same. Okay. It's slightly better again. Thing is, I'm comparing this to the Android 21's EX breaks, and they were different, but quite similar. If you know what I mean. The abilities weren't exactly the same, but they did have the same sort of vibe to them. Which he's gone for here. It's just because all their abilities are so similar. I just don't know if anything below... I mean, the LR would obviously be the best one with this UR here. Would these two get used? I don't know. I'm not sure how your EX breaks are working. That's the problem. Like, I'm not sure whether he just he's an R figure that goes into an EXR, or whether you break into that. Like I say, I don't think these two would be used that much. This guy would be used. I will say that without a doubt now. He would be used. He's got great stat boosts. Having that is really big for a lot of figures. 10% isn't much, but it really is a big difference, especially with how defensive decks are nowadays. Having an extra minus 10% to own damage taken is really good. So then we got the LR, which is Super Saiyan 3 at Goku. He just gets a fucking steroid boost at this point, doesn't he? 9,600? Yeah, we're going to give him 2,000 extra HP now. Okay. I like it. I'm all for it. I don't mind figures having massive HP stats. Makes them look ridiculous. Alright, so he now gives boost to all allies on the field. So it's not just himself getting the boost. 15% to own damage dealt and minus 10. Okay, that's good. That's a good passive. What would that be comparable to? I'm not sure, really. I mean, nothing really gives straight up attack and defense boost that good, I suppose, outside of End of Z Goku, but End of Z Goku is kind of like in a realm of his own in terms of being a support. When an ally is defeated, 25 to attack gauge. It gets attack gauge boost as well as attack damage for the ultimates. Okay. And boost for all allies. Okay, very good. And he has 3 trigger squares all across the front. I like that. I like 3 trigger squares. What's he got? Dragon Fist, Super God Fist. Dragon Fist. Okay. Does he do that to Trunks in Super? I'm not sure. I know he just punches him and just fucking knocks him out, but that might have been what Super God Fist was. I mean, I love Dragon Fist. I love watching that animation from the Tapion movie. Oh, what the hell was that called? I can't remember from the top of my head now. But that was a solid movie. And it's just such a good movie. I think Dragon Fist is quite iconic. I think everybody loves it. It was quite hype whenever you saw it. I personally, though, my favorite was always on Nova Shenron. Like, Goku had killed him already, basically, and he just like, yeah, I'm now just going to Dragon Fist you to add insult to injury. But that's a very strong figure. The UR is strong as well, so these are all good. Right, move on to Gohan Kid now. So it looks like we've just gone into regular figures now. So Kid Gohan, Evil Ray Strike, Unrelenting Barrage, Familiar Rage is his posing skill. Stats, interesting actually. We'll look at them once we've looked at the posing skill. So place on the trigger square, 500 to attack, 350 to defense, 10% to ultimate attack gauge. Okay, that bit's just a copycat of this. You guys are cheating now. That's cheating. You can't just use that as the same. When Goku was on the field, 30% to ultimate attack gauge stacks during that turn. Okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty solid. Those stat boosts, I certainly think the speed figure here is very good. Solid HP stat. He'll boost his defense up quite nicely during the turn as well. This version, it's on the high end of being in a slow deck, and the problem is if you're not in a slow deck and you're not quick enough, you're kind of in limbo. They need to make a halfway house between really fast skills and really slow skills. I'd honestly like to see them make a bunch of skills just based upon how much of a stat. So let's say you have 0 to 1000 speed, you can have a certain item, 1001 to 2000, etc., etc. And do that for each stat. Just to add a bit of variety, because you either play defense up skills or you put speed based ones or attack up front and stuff like that on. So it's pretty boring in that sense for character skills, because there's just not much use for them outside of the main ones. But yeah, this solid figure. Like I say, I like this version better. I'm a big fan of speed figures that can also tank a bit as well, so definitely a fan of that. When an ally is defeated, getting those stats as well is very nice. I could honestly see him working in just teams that want to grind their ultimate attack as quick as possible, because he's a front middle, so that makes him an 0-1 skiller, basically. If you can get one ally alone taken out, you know, he's suddenly on 7,800 attack and 4,800 speed. Plus, when he gets put on the field, he gets an extra 500 attack. He's starting to look like a very heavy hitter with 0-1 skills, so he's pretty good. I like this Gohan Kid. Tien definitely needs a new figure. Definitely deserves some respect. So, pose both fists out. Dodon Ray, yeah, makes sense. Neo Tri-Beam. Oh, you didn't call it the Kikoho. I always remember that now. I'm guessing this will be from the Cell Saga, when TN last got his real good moment. So, we'll look at the stats after the posing skill. Stoic Perseverance. Place on triggers with 500 to own defense and prevent attacked opponents from switching until the end of the next turn, which is repeatable. Place on or after turn 3 for 700 to own defense and 20% to own ultimate attack damage. I like that. That is very bulky. I like that. I want a good TN figure. 2100 is on the slightly fast side for slow decks, but because I'm not a huge fan of just putting Vados into every deck, because I'm not a tryhard like that, I like to use sort of rogue decks. I could get away with having him in there. So, is that supposed to be... I'm guessing that's supposed to be front, middle, and front right. That's pretty good, because he can front line for stuff like... obviously, you could bang Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta behind him. You could bang Kefla behind him. You could put Omega Shenron or Blue Vegeta. There's some really good figures that you can actually put behind him there. So, bear in mind as well, at the start of turn 1, he has 3,000 defense and just under 8,000 HP. So, that's pretty nasty for a defensive figure. This version, wow. This is Vegito, basically. These stats are sort of Vegito-esque. A little bit more HP than Vegito. But apart from that, that is Vegito. With his own 20% boost to ultimate attack damage. He's good. He's good as a speed figure as well, because he's bulky. Again, 2,000 defense on turn 1. You can't really sort of argue with that, especially because of those trigger swears. You can put Videl behind him, or you can put Vegito behind him. That's a really good figure. That's very strong. That's my favourite one so far, I think. This TN, I really like this TN. The thing is, I like posing skills that are quite simple as well. This guy has a simple posing skill. It's the same for Dokkan. A figure doesn't need, like, this much, like this many lines, say, of a posing skill to make them great. Like, they literally just need this much, and they can be a great figure. So, yeah, big fan of this TN. Krillin. I mean, Krillin, does he deserve respect? He just gets smacked around a lot, but... Solar Flare pose, Super Destructo Disc, Chain Destructo Disc Barrage. Posing skill, Cutting Edge. Placing trigger score 500 to own speed and deal damage equal to half of attacked opponent's max HP. When going first, plus 250 to all allies repeatable. Cannot receive counterattacks. Interesting that you've put that on there. He cannot receive counterattacks, so that means he can't be hit with them. Because presumably what they're saying is that when they tried to do that, he just used the solar flare on them, I'm guessing. So, interesting. Boost to his own speed, plus the 250 to all allies there. Deal damage equal to half of attacked opponent's HP. Front, middle, back, right. Interesting. Very, very quick figure. Very quick in this version. 6'9", with just that on turn 1. The speed version is probably going to be better, looking at these. Just because of that speed stat making your team very likely to go first. Plus, because he just hits your opponent's max HP for 50%, then his attack doesn't really matter. That's interesting. That's interesting. I'm curious how to dupe this version of him. He's quick again, but not as quick as that, obviously. He has a great attack stat, but you can't really use it unless you don't put him on a trigger square. But then if you don't put him on a trigger square, you don't get this. So he's odd, and I kind of like that. I like that this is something different. Sorry. I do like that it's different. I'm just not entirely sure on him. It would be cool to just do an Earthling deck that's actually solid, although I did do that 20-point Earthling deck that did quite well. Anyway, interesting figure, and I like interesting new ideas for figures, so I'll give it a thumbs up for that. Yamcha. Yamcha definitely doesn't deserve respect. He should just get knocked out as soon as he's put on the field. End of Key Blast Thrust, Spirit Ball. Lupine Vigor. Placed on a trigger square, 500 own attack and speed, repeatable. Place on or after turn 3 for a 1.5 boost to own attack. Stacks during that turn only. Let's look at the stats. I mean, that is pretty good. That is a, let's see, that's a Bay 18 sort of level of attack and speed, really. Yeah, I think I'd rather have Bay 18. They have the same trigger squares as well, I think. Or is that supposed to be... I don't know. So you've spaced some of them weirdly. I think that's supposed to be front, middle, and back. Or front, middle, front, left. And this, if it was here, it would be front, right. So... I don't know. This version's quite interesting. Great HP stat, decent attack. Plus, something I'm interested in as well is figures that get stronger as the game go along in terms of speed, because that can make your slow decks really powerful. That's one of the main reasons I like Golden Frieza so much. Yes, he nerfs their attack, but he also nerfs their speed. So as the game gets later on, they're going to be going second, and later in the game, you sometimes do want to be going first. So that's why I love Golden Frieza so much, and I think this is a good argument for this Yamcha in the late game. If you can keep him alive, I suppose, he'll be very good with speed. Plus an attack boost of 1.5. Let's say we put him on turn 3, or turn 1, and we get him to turn 3. So he's got 6,500 attack on this one, which would go up to about 9,700. That's a pretty good attack stat, but it's the 8. I mean, no, I just don't see it. I like him because I think he's interesting, but I don't see him being that usable. So my problem is it takes him till turn 3 to really have that level of attack, whereas I can throw something in a slow deck. I can throw Blue Vegeta or Omega Shenron in a deck and be hitting those numbers turn 1. Yes, I can't put him there, but... The speed one is good, though. The speed one is good. Problem is he's not going to live to turn 3, so you'd have to save him until then, and 50% of that doesn't really make him that much of a hard hitter. I'd say he's the weakest one so far, which makes sense. I mean, it's Yamcha, so he shouldn't really be strong. Broly from Dragon Ball Super. So, Gigantic Roar, Gigantic Charge, Gigantic Roar. Harbor Demon. Place on a trigger square 5 to own attack, 350 to own defense, and to copy attack-related skill effects from all opponents on the field. Place when alone for Master to take no damage, once only. Place when HP is below 50%, 1.5 to own attack. Stacks during that turn only. So he is the epitome of a figure that wants your Master to be at half health. He would work really well in a team with double Intimidation Goku. If you don't know what Intimidation Goku does, he's very similar in that he gets a very good boost once your Master is below 50%. So you could run those 3. Let's look at his stats. So that's a very speedy figure. Just not great on the attack. But he does copy attack-related skill effects from all opponents on the field. What attack-related skill effects would you commonly see? Android 21, Vegito, the current DBS Broly, I guess. The newer UI Goku, Blue Vegeta. There's quite a few that are reasonably common, I suppose. So that could be quite clever. Can I just ask as well, what's your obsession with 350 to defense and 500 to own attack Tempest? Like, I think you've had 4 or 5 figures that have that exact number now. And I'm not counting every copy of the Gokus at the top. Like, they're just counting as one. I kind of like that. I kind of like that because I like figures that are going to make other skills useful. And if you can make a deck where, I mean, what's he front left, front right? Yeah, you can't really run him with double intimidation Goku though, and unfortunately, because they're back left and back right, so that kind of sucks. Just because you can't run one across the board, and if you're below 50% HP, then you can't risk your opponent taking sort of hitting your master really. But still, you could run him with one intimidation Goku and something else, so I think he's pretty good. His stats are a little mediocre, especially this version. This version, he's got speed. Whenever they've got a decent speed stat like that, there's always a chance they're viable. And he's got a good HP stat as well, so he can take a hit. And again, he's another figure that you could plonk down in front of Vegito, so that's always... or Gogeta, the new sort of the EX break Gogetas. So any figure that you can do that with is always going to be viable. So I don't think this one really is. His stats are kind of... I don't know, they're not wonky, they're just... That's a little too high, that's a little too low. I know he gets these boosts, but if your opponent doesn't have attack-related skill effects, if your opponent runs, like... Let's say they do one of my dickhead decks and go with Piccolo, Vados, and Golden Frieza. Broly's getting nothing off of that, so he's just getting this boost. Which is a little underwhelming, so... That's the problem I have, in that a big part of him, really, is that he's dependent on your opponent, and that can be a problem. Just because if your opponent isn't running figures that sort of complement this, it doesn't work. But if you come against somebody who uses double Vegito, suddenly you're getting 700 attack from those two, so... Swings and roundabouts, I guess. I suppose, as well, because the new EX Gogetas are so common, you can get a massive boost off of somebody running them. So, I don't know. That's could be perceived either way. You know what I mean? He's good, and I think he's very usable, especially the speed version, but I wouldn't say he's top tier. Right, after this, we're on to LR figures. How long has this been going, actually? Wow, 27 minutes. And we're only that far down. Yeah, I'm going to call it there, guys. We'll start going over the LRs next time. I didn't realize I'd been talking about this for so long. Like, here's the thing. I do love Hero Colosseum. I think that's a thing that some people don't tend to see, because I do tend to get quite angry at it. I do love Hero Colosseum. I really do. And talking about this, I enjoy it. If we had more of this in the game as well, I would love it. I would love to see Hero Colosseum get the treatment it deserves. I'd love to see it become an app game, in all honesty. I think if they just said, right, we're taking it out of Xenoverse 2 and we're going to make it an app game, I think it would fly off the store. I think people would love it, and I certainly would. But anyway, like I say, I do love Hero Colosseum. I know it doesn't always come across that I do, but I do love it. I will always love it. I love strategy. I love Dragon Ball. It appeals to my two biggest loves, really, in gaming, and with Dragon Ball in general. You know, it was such a massive part of my childhood. But anyway, thank you for watching. Leave your opinions on these UR figures in the description below. I'm sure Tempests will probably correct me a load on some of the stuff, probably mostly about these Gokus up here, because I've probably completely butchered how they're supposed to actually be interpreted. So he'll probably correct that. Look in the comments below in like a couple days after this is uploaded, because Free Tempests will be in there correcting a load of the shit I've probably said in this video. So, like I say, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.